spooky friends, welcome to Kelly Does Stuff. Today's video is part 2 of setting up my cemetery and spooky town center. Part 1, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It was setting up the cemetery behind me, and then now we're gonna do spooky town also behind me. I'm going to show you a little bit about different ways that you can hide cords. We've talked about that in other videos. This kind of comes up in several different situations in this video. I'm also going to share with you some accessories and little things that I made or made adjustments to, some things that I bought to suit the display or the building that I wanted to add the accessory to. And then also just kind of share some different ways to think about how you can add detail accessories and then also do it inexpensively. So with that, let's do it. Let's set up the spooky town center.
Off to the races with that styrofoam. And what would Halloween be without styrofoam? Now, this might look a little familiar to you if you saw the first part of this series with the cemetery setup, but I wanted to talk a little bit about this styrofoam in context of the spooky town center, which is what we are doing today. These are many, many sheets of EPS foam. It's that white, kind of crumbly foam, and I like using this when I've got a really big setup that I want to do in a solid piece that you can see here. I did create a little bit of a brick pattern on the front of the styrofoam, as well as a little bit of kind of larger random cobblestone roads on this area right here, which is going to be a little bit of a cave section. I'll talk a little bit more about this later on, but this is a great way to get a couple extra pieces into your display, especially when you're going to build up and you lose some depth. Last year I wanted to add some additional lighting inside the cave, so I hot glued these circle lights up to the top, which are fantastic because they're operated with a remote. However, halfway through the season they burnt out, and this is so far back in my display that I couldn't get to them to replace them. Okay, so that was a little prologue to get us to the present moment where we've got our cemetery done and we're going to start setting up our spooky town center pieces. I'm going to put my 2 Limax pieces in the cave. However, I needed to do something about the cords, so I did a wonderful hack job through this styrofoam so I could thread my cords. I used a box cutter, and then I even grabbed a hot wire tool because I just couldn't reach far enough. I had to go pretty deep. The styrofoam, it was pretty thick to get to the back of it. So not pretty, but it worked. Sometimes you just have to make small circular holes for your cords, and sometimes you've got these big things that you've got to thread, and you might need to break out some special tools for that. That's right, spooky friends, we have some kitchen tongs. I have never used this before in my Halloween village, but I gotta say it was pretty fantastic to grab on to that cord and push it back through the hole so it could fall behind the table and plug in. So I did decide to replace those lights, and if they burn out again, they burn out. But here is what I use, and I just attach them with some hot glue. You do kind of have to hold it in place for a little while, especially because you have to use your hot glue gun on the low setting, because if it's too hot, you're just going to eat through your foam, which makes it impossible to attach. I love these lights because you can change the color of the lights. You can do different effects. I typically just keep it like a solid color, and of course you've got that remote, which is really fantastic. You can turn everything on and off all at once. So this piece is Limax Butcher Shop, and I decided I need a butcher table accessory. I got this in the dollhouse section at Michael's. I scruffed it up and then painted it, and then those little globby things you see on there are actually hot glue pieces that I painted red. And then these other little creepy accessories I got on Etsy. And we've got some more hot glue pieces painted red, and of course the zombies are making their way to that table and the butcher shop. I make these pieces by putting some hot glue onto a piece of parchment paper and wait for the glue to cool and then paint it a metallic red. I'm re-gluing these vines that came off in the off season, and this is a very delicate process because pressing those vines into the styrofoam is a fantastic way to burn yourself on the hot glue if you're not very careful. Time to add the next part of Spooky Town, but will it fit? Yes, it does. Dance party time! Okay, let's talk hiding cords. I did go over this a bit in my Bayou section video, but just in case this is your first time, one of the questions we always have is how do you hide cords? One of the best ways that I do it is just grabbing a whole bunch of moss and covering it up. But what if you have something like this where you're gonna have a piece here and you're in the town center, you're on a road, maybe you don't want a whole strip of moss that would run across your cobblestone. So you can put some holes into your styrofoam. There are hot wire tools that will do this and create a perfect little hole. I just use a blade to cut a hole. And then what a lot of people will do, or I know some people do, will then carve a trench into your styrofoam so that cord has somewhere to go. I don't do that. I just, it lays flat enough for me. Maybe if I had a ton of them, but it just works out. So I have two pieces here. This is going to be the Zombie Records, and that one goes, I think, right here. And then this is a Limax piece. This is Department 56, the Rusty Needle Tattoo. That one goes here. They both have these adapter type cords, but what's really wonderful is you don't have to create a hole big enough to go that way. All you have to do, because they've got these things, you just run this up. Let me see, can I do this? So this works out really great for me because for this particular setup, I've got this gap in the table. Fine, I'm trying to film and do this at the same time, and there we go. Yay. Okay, so boom. So we got that one. Now I've got this piece. So here, what I'm gonna do is I'm just dropping it down, and it runs underneath there, and it fits fine. Or fine enough. Look, it's not flat, but you're gonna get all the stuff on there. You could definitely do a trench if you're concerned or worried about it. So Limax often has, this is how they do them. If they don't have a light, it just goes in like that. And then let's go ahead and finish pulling that down. There you go. I always test my light. So let's go ahead and test this. Make sure that our light is gonna come on. And it does. It's really bright out, so it's hard to tell, but it did light up. You know, if it wasn't, obviously you're just gonna make sure that you flip your switch here before you thread that. It's often fun to have a very dramatic moment where you set up all of your Halloween pieces, and then it's like the lighting of the Christmas tree. You're like, okay, let's light up the village. And then you realize, wait a minute, I didn't flip this, or a bulb is burnt out or something. And now you've got this hidden underneath stuff, and it's a nightmare, but not the fun kind of Halloween nightmares that we like. So I'm gonna run that under there and lay flat enough. Yeah, so obviously that's a little bump there. If I don't like that, we can do this. This is another styrofoam platform that I made. And this is actually made out of not my favorite XPS foam. This is actually that EPS, you guys know this foam. It's the white foam that, it's like all the little balls and it makes a mess. But I like it that it comes in these really big sheets. So if I'm gonna do a really big project, I've just got a lot of material to work with. So another way, if that is too high and I don't like that, or it's not flat, whatever word I'm trying to use, another thing that I do, because I know that this is set up here, what I could do is run this under here and just kind of hide it way back there. So that's probably what I'll do. Because I have that opportunity to kind of tuck it away. There's a piece that goes in here. You're not gonna see that. And I have a piece that goes on top of here and here. Those I will just hide. I'll run them back here. I've got a couple pieces here. I'll run them along here. There's a gap here in my tables. I'll shove a couple down here. Any that are in the front, I can run them. And I say run them, so why am I running here but not here? Because of where they're positioned. So it's all of course up to you how you want to do it. All right, so I have a couple pieces that go here and here. And then I'm gonna have some pieces kind of in the front. And I didn't want these pieces to be blocked too much. I felt like they needed like a little bit of a boost, a little height. And so what I did is really quickly, I just created some platforms. Like this was so fast. I'm always like, I'm gonna do it really fast, and it's never fast. And just to keep it simple, I did like some random scratches, like random stone, because I didn't have to think too much about a pattern. And then just did a really quick painting. This was like the village was getting set up, and I was just like, I really just want to bump these up a little bit. I don't want to spend a ton of time. And I think this is the one that goes here. And then for this one over here, I did a 2 thingy. Oh, I got real fancy. I curved it. And then I put it over there. And so then I'll have another piece there. And then I made these. I'm always like thinking about how do you get your little people up there? And it feels like they need another step. I don't know, why is that so high? What'd I do? That will bother me. Let me show you. I don't know, I gotta go look last year. I used the exact same pieces. I know I didn't have another thing here. I don't know, it really bothers me. I could have sworn that those went all the way up here. Will I do something about it? If I'm gonna do something about it, I'll have to add another little just step under here. And then this is the stair stacking method. I do have a tutorial or a video on how to create different types of stairs. And so I made those because I'm always like, but how are the spooky friends going to get up to the different layers? There's always got to be a way. Now, I don't know how you get up to the cemetery, but maybe you don't want it. You get up to the cemetery when you're dead. I really love this piece I made out of styrofoam. It's a movie billboard to go with Department 56 Lagosti Theater. I need to reattach it here. And I do have a short video where I show you how I did this. I was very into caves last year and built this cavern for my Zombie Jazz Cafe Tavern. This is a Limax piece. And a question that we often have when our collection gets bigger and bigger is, where are we going to set everything up and how are we going to display it? And building up is definitely one way to do it, but of course then we're going to lose the depth that going up requires. And a way to combat that is to create little caves or caverns to fit more pieces. Let's talk cobblestone roads. I spent approximately 99% of 2022 carving cobblestone. I've talked a lot about cobblestone in other videos, and I've created cobblestone roads, and typically I'm using that XPS foam and a pencil is all I need to do this. I do have some hot wire tools, and I've done a tools tutorial if you're interested in that. For this EPS foam, I used my hot wire tool. For some reason, I decided to first draw out my cobblestones and then go over it with my hot wire tool. I don't know, I guess I just thought, how can I make this process even longer? I don't think it's necessary to draw them out first if you're going to use this router tool. Sorry, not router, engraver. I made this wall out of scrap EPS foam, and then I made that little sign there just at home, printed it out and Mod Podged it onto the styrofoam, did a little bit of a brick pattern, and then just glued on a little bit of greenery there just to give it a little bit more interest and kind of break up Spooky Town into a little bit different section, kind of help break up just that so much of that gray and cobblestone with some gray wall. last year I got pretty obsessed with and had a blast creating lots of little accessories to augment my building pieces. This is a sandwich board cold beer sign that I just made out of some scrap cardboard to go along with the broken skull bar. This is just a really inexpensive way also to add accessories and details to your village. And I just love the idea of adding these really realistic elements into this fake fantasy made-up world. Another piece here from the dollhouse section, and I painted it a rough gray to help it fit in better with the theme of Spooky Town. And one last thing that I wanted to show you are these banners that I made. Something that you might see in an actual downtown area where they put banners on light poles. I made these using straws from the dollar store, printed out the sign and some scrap styrofoam. I secured the sign to the straw with some wire, and I had to glue them onto my cobblestone because they were a little unsteady, so I just used some hot glue. When it was time to store it last year, I did pull those up, and it took a little bit of the styrofoam with it, which was okay because I just hot glued them in place again this year. And here's the process of making them, and unfortunately when I filmed it I did it as a time lapse, and so the speed of this is totally bananas, but hope you can see here a little bit of how I did this. Super easy. And then definitely that hot glue gun on the low setting when it's time to attach it.
All right, another section of my village is done, and thank you so much for coming along with me as I showed you how I set up my Spooky Town Center. I'll show you a little bit of what we did like I do in the other videos, and then I'll do that separate video with the full reveal with the lights and the whole spooky spectacularness of both the cemetery and the Spooky Town Center. I want to thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed. I can't thank you enough. It means so much to me. If you haven't subscribed, I hope that you will consider it. Leave a comment. Let me know about Halloween and villages, and like if you do set up, I'd actually really be interested to know, do you guys do themes? Do you collect, you know, just kind of certain stuff? Like I just also love learning and seeing what other people are doing in regards to Halloween and villages and creating and all that fun stuff. Like this video, share with 5 or 10 spooky friends. Happy creating, you guys, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Spooky flowing. Like maybe you're watching this in March of like 3029 or something. Bow, bow. Share this video, please. Oh, that's broken. Is that broken? God. That was a spooky show. I don't know what is happening.